Painful memories can bring pain.
We're doing this one blind. I've never really bothered looking at this officer prior to the recording of the last video. I've looked at him once or twice, and that is specifically for his special skill. But today we're talking about Lonesome Star. Infantry field skills. No, again, I'm not going to try and pronounce his real name. I'm just not. I'm English. Those are letters we don't have. They don't exist to us. We're going to dive right in to the tactical skill. Deals damage to an enemy, damage coefficient of up to 1500. This officer is in an infantry troop. The skill also plants landmines around their troop. These mines have a 50% chance to deal up to 750 damage coefficient to enemy troops within 2 map grids, up to 3 enemy troops. That's a bit of a mouthful. Let's see if we can break that down. It'll place landmines, and there's a 50% chance when those landmines detonate, I'm guessing, with the tactical skill, that it will affect up to 3 enemy troops within 2 map grids of the infantry. That's 50% chances I'm on the fence about, because obviously that could be really good or it could really suck, but infantry damage and damage coefficient coming out of infantry is not the greatest. That being said, if we're just going off the capability of this skill, it gives us a little bit extra. It's a 4. Blast Suit. When this officer's troop is attacked, it has a 30% chance to gain a shield coefficient of up to 500 for 2 seconds and can be triggered once every 8 seconds. So this is determined by the rate of fire being applied to the target being your infantry troop, or whichever unit you happen to have this attached to. If you don't have a shield on that, I don't particularly like chance-based things because it relies on the application. If you're in a straight-up fight, tank on tank, you're going to take countless rounds. It's going to trigger at least once. It could give you the edge. It's a nice skill. I do like this skill. If you're running a main battle tank and you're using, say, Whipcracker, where you're going to get a shield at the start of combat and that's it, this is a great skill to train in that scenario. I'm not going to say any more about it. I'll leave you guys to make up your mind about it. I do like this skill. It is a 5. Bomb Squad increases the HP of the officer's infantry by up to 25% and their blast damage resist by up to 20%. There's not a lot to say about this. It does what it says on the tin. It is a 4. We're going to skip through that one nice and quickly because we all know what HP and blast damage resist does. Heavy weaponry. If this officer is in an infantry troop, it increases the skill damage of all officers in their troop by up to 30%. So if you're, for some reason, the insane person who wants to run offensive infantry, you will need this skill. Because let's be honest, skill-based damage is the only base damage. 30% skill damage buff is really high. Obviously, this is applied to this officer. I mean, if you're running infantry and you're running no shield on the infantry, you do have a bit of a death wish. But for sake of argument, if you want to deal damage, 30% is nothing to be sniffed at. The only thing I don't like about this skill is the fact that it is restricted to infantry only. and just on that basis it gets a 4. If it did not have the infantry only restriction, it would be a 5, because you could put it anywhere. Bloodied Veteran. This officer's infantry take 10% less skill damage. While their infantry troop is in bunker mode, allies within their troop's cover range, besides fortifications, gain another 2% reduction to incoming damage. So infantry do count as fortifications, so you can't stack this on other infantry. But that is pretty tasty. It's a good skill. Skill damage reduction, and increases the cover range and the effective cover range of the bunker by 2% to all allies within its coverage. I would say a 3. This is a 3. It's nothing that Vox Veritas doesn't do without being awakened. Let's be honest. It's a 3. Bloodied Veteran is a 3. It's not a particularly amazing skill. It's not particularly bad, and I wouldn't be mad if I had it. Netting us a nice neat and tidy 4. So he is sitting above Everbloom in terms of the points. However, I would not recommend this character above Everbloom on your infantry. So let's talk about potential uses for this officer and potential combinations. And we're going to dive down the realms of potential. Let's just assume for one moment your infantry is going to be dealing skill damage. This officer is essential. I would argue that you probably need to place him as the aide rather than the captain, on the basis that this skill doesn't require you to be in the captain slot, and this skill, while it does deal 1500 damage coefficient, does have only a 50-50 chance to spill over, and then it only affects units in the field. So he's an aide officer. He's not a captain. Who would I put in front of him if I was insane and doing skill damage? Iron Bastion, most likely. So if I was using my infantry to deal siege damage to an enemy base, or to deal damage to anything, I would be putting Iron Bastion as the captain and Lonesome start as the aide. You'd get the shield, you'd get the HP bonuses, you would get the bonuses from the bunkers, and obviously the shield does get applied every 30% once every 8 seconds for 2 seconds. Is it a game changer for the infantry? Potentially. Would I recommend you use this officer? Probably not. But if you did feel that your army was lacking and you wanted the additional skill damage, then yes, I would go Bastion, Lonesome Star as your options for your infantry. Instead of going defensive, you can kind of produce some sort of offensive damage. I wouldn't recommend it, guys. He's a good officer if that is what you're going for. If you're going for offensive infantry, he is a good officer. You do have more options available to you than what you do with Everbloom, and you can just simply train in a lot of damage skills. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. I think that he's kind of worth, but only if you're using him to attack a base, and even then you probably don't want him to be the lead soak. Good officer though.